Hello, Jessica Morehouse here. I recently did a Facebook live stream in partnership with H&R Block, and I was joined by one of their senior tax experts, Lisa Gittens, and we kind of did a 30-minute Ask Me Anything on my Facebook page where we got to answer a bunch of rapid-fire questions from lots of my readers and listeners and social media followers, and it was a lot of fun. And we also got a bunch of emails in advance from people who really just wanted to know how to prepare their taxes properly and just some tips and tricks for them to make tax season a breeze. So in case you weren't able to join us for the live stream, that is okay. I have the video for you right here, right now, so I hope you enjoy it. Hello and welcome to a very special Facebook Live. I am Jessica Morehouse, personal finance expert, blogger, and podcast host of the Mo Money podcast. And with me I have a very special guest, Lisa Gittens from H&R Block. She is a senior tax expert and she is here with me to answer all of your tax questions live. Thank you so much for joining me, Lisa.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm very excited to talk about taxes with you, and I know you're excited to talk tax with me too.
I am. It's going to be a good day.
It's going to be a good day. So we are taking questions live. So if you have a question, please let us know. Send them to us on my Facebook page. I think you just comment on the stream and we will get to it. But in the meantime, we got a lot of emails from people who had questions, so they wanted to make sure that we didn't miss them. So we're going to start with some of those questions, and then we'll just see where it takes us. So the first question we got was, I can't decide whether to do my taxes in store or online. What would you say are the benefits of one over the other? And I think this is a question, so a lot of people are like, how should I do my taxes? What is the best way?
That is correct. The benefit of this is at least you're on the right stage of you want to do your taxes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So
right. That's good.
This is where I want you to all start.
Doing your taxes.
Correct.
Fabulous.
Now that you are prepared to do your taxes, you're thinking, do I want to sit down with someone or do I want to do them online? If you've been preparing your taxes in the past and you're familiar with your situation, you have one employer, one T4, and you're confident about the tax credits that you want to claim, I would suggest you try the online because it's very straightforward. You have, if you have your tax assessment from the previous year, you're going to be able to go in on the online software and it will guide you through, do you have a T4, enter your numbers here. And when you get that end result, if your situation is similar to it was last year, you will be able to sit down and compare, okay, did I have all the line and numbers entered? Am I confident with this refund? So that's something you can do if you have been filing your returns in the past.
Yeah.
If you're a first-time filer or your situation has changed from last year, this is where I recommend speaking to a professional who can look at how the changes are going to impact you and give you some information as to what the new credits are that you may be able to claim. So even sitting down and having that consultation in the office may prepare you then to go home and do it online. So it's a personal preference.
Personal preference, absolutely. Yeah. I've always kind of leaned towards doing it online because I like the convenience of it. And lots of the programs out there allow you to do your taxes and you're like, you know what, I'm going to get a snack and I'll come back to you.
That is very good. Yes, or save it, ask the question, and come back to it.
Exactly, for sure. Okay, so let's move on to question number 2 from one of our askers. I'm filing for the first time on my own this year and I'm a student. Are there certain things I should make sure to claim? I'm sure there's a lot of things they should know being a student and being a first-time filer.
This is it. Now, if this is the first time that they've ever filed a tax return, they definitely want to sit down with a professional. First-time filers aren't always able to file directly with the net file because there's no history with them with the Revenue Canada. So you want to go in and as a student specifically, you have your tuition that you're going to claim. So you want to have your tuition receipt. If you worked part-time, you're going to have that T4 slip from your employer to claim. If you have been commuting back and forth to school using public transit, you want to claim your bus passes.
Absolutely.
And this is the last year that you can claim those bus passes.
For student passes only?
Last year, anyone claiming TTC passes. So if this is your first time as a student filing, claim those bus passes.
Absolutely.
Because the credit isn't going to be available in future years for you.
Absolutely. Would I know books is also a big one because those can be expensive.
Now here's the change that's happening for 2016. So on your tuition receipt, if you were a full-time student, you get the months that you are full-time will be indicated on the slip. And there's a credit available that gives you funds for being in school full-time. And because you're in full-time, you get another credit for the textbook amount. You don't claim the actual cost of the textbooks, but you say, I'm in school full-time for 8 months, and there's a built-in credit that goes towards you buying the textbooks. This is the last year you're going to be able to claim that.
Okay.
In future years, you'll just claim the tuition fees. So this young lady stepping in, doing her taxes as a student for the first time in 2016, it's a great learning opportunity for her to get all of the credits available. Tuition fees, education amount, textbook amount, and claim her transit passes.
Yeah, it's a good year to take advantage of all
Take advantage of all of the credits.
Ooh, it looks like we have a question. Can I claim child care if a relative is looking after my child for cash?
So if that relative is over 18 years and you are providing them a receipt for the services, yes, you can claim it. So you're going to claim the expense as a child care deduction, and your relative is going to claim the amount as income on their tax return.
So probably if they're doing cash, I feel like they may not have some kind of receipt. So what's a good way to, I guess, kind of exchange money in that way,
and
to
this
have
is
like
the
a receipt?
misconception that's out there, because if you're working for cash, there's a big misconception that you shouldn't report it on your income tax return. But if you're earning cash, it could be for babysitting, it could be for lawn cutting, it could be for hairdressing. It is always good to report your income on your tax return. In Ontario, for example, you can earn $11,000 before you have to pay any income tax. So you're paying that babysitter $3,000. They're earning the cash. They report it as income on their income tax return. There's a big benefit to them filing and reporting income, but they wouldn't have to pay tax on that unless it's over $11,000. Now, keep in mind that if this is something that you're wanting to be doing on a regular basis, then that babysitter may want to look at filing as a self-employed person and having Canada pension and EI premiums deducted. But cash, definitely report it, give her the receipt, claim the deduction on your tax return, and have your babysitter report it as income.
Okay, perfect. Let's see what other questions we have. So we have another one that we got in advance, and it is, I'm a server and haven't been the best at recording my tips. What should I fill out for this section?
Okay, so your tips are reported on line 104 of your T1 General. If you're filling it out by paper, you'll see that line. If you're filling it out online, as you're walking through the T4 section, you're going to see the different line entries using the online software. So this is employment income that is not reported on a T4 slip. And you want to report your tips, the full gross amount of the tips that you've earned in the year. A lot of people, again, you're getting the tips cash, so you're shying away from it. I'd like to give an actual example where I had a client who came in, worked at 3 different jobs in 2016, all as a server, and she hadn't been keeping track of the tips. But we did an estimate, and basically I asked her, were the tips equal to your pay or more than your pay? And we figured out they were about equal to her pay every week. Her pay was about $3,000. We claimed $5,000 in tips, looking at every week earnings. When she filed with her tips, her refund was actually higher than when she filed using her employment income alone. So going back to the specific question, you're going to report the T4 income on line 101, the tip income on line 104. And if you haven't been keeping track of your tips, you know whether the amount you earned was equal to the pay you earned for that week, greater than or less than. And you definitely want to be reporting an amount.
Absolutely. Looks like we've got some more questions live. One person asked, if I miss out on RESP contributions, can I do a lump sum contribution?
Okay. So RESP contributions, which is the Registered Education Savings Plan, those contributions are up to a maximum of $2,500 per year for your child. There is no deduction for those contributions on your income tax return. That what happens there is any amount that you contribute, the government will match for your child's college fund in future years. With a registered retirement savings plan, it's based on the deduction room, based on the income you earned in the previous year. So we're talking two different things there. And for the RESP, there isn't a catch-up room. It's what you can contribute, a maximum of $2,500 in that year that the government will match.
Okay.
And no repercussions on your income tax.
Okay, perfect. I have another live question. What do I need to give my tax preparer in terms of info? I think this is a very popular question. People are like, what do I give my tax professional? I have no idea where to start. So what are some key things that people need to bring to their tax professional?
Very, very terrific question. Thank you for asking. So I'm an individual filing my tax return. The first thing you want to walk in with is proof of your identity. So piece of photo ID that shows your current name and your address. The second thing you want to have is your T4 slips. So if you were working from your employer, if you have one or multiple T4s, you want to provide those T4s. The T4s are going to verify the address, and on the T4 is your social insurance number. And that identification, SIN number, income, those are the three things that go into any basic return. Now we look at things, the next step we're going to look at is your marital status.
Yes.
So let us know if you're married, let us know if you have any dependent children. And with those children, typically we need to know their names and their birth dates. Now we're looking at receipts. So as our previous question was talking about RRSPs, did you contribute to your RRSP? We're going to need to see the official income tax receipt for that. We also need to see official receipts for charitable donations. We need to see official receipts for things like medical expenses. If you are a renter or you own your own home and you've been paying property tax in Ontario, we need to see the rent receipt or the property tax statement for those credits. Childcare expenses, we'll need to see a receipt either from the babysitter or from the daycare. From the camp, the sports camp, if you have receipts for your child attending sports camps. If your child has been doing tutoring, all of these things require an official income tax receipt to claim the credit. And again, this is the last year for bus passes, so I'm going to say you're going to bring in those TTC monthly passes.
And the one thing that I found out when I was doing my taxes this year, because I take the TTC and I always had the monthly pass, was for this past January 2016, there wasn't a date on it. I think they were switching things over, and I didn't keep my receipt. I just had my bus passes or my transit passes, and apparently I couldn't claim January because it didn't actually have the date on it, and I didn't have my receipt.
Okay, that's an unusual
It was
situation.
a total unusual thing, but just in case anyone is from Toronto and deals with that, I feel your pain.
In the office, what we've experienced is the monthly pass, on the back of it, which we don't always look at, it says, this is your official income tax receipt, and it requires you to sign the pass on the back of it.
Very important.
So in the office, that's all we require. You bring in your monthly pass with your signature on the back. Keep in mind that if you're married, or you are the one buying the passes for your dependent child, that those credits for the passes can be transferred. I'm stressing this because this is the last year you can do it.
Exactly. So take advantage.
Take advantage of it while the credit's on the table.
Let's see. I have another question. So someone is asking, where in my previous notice of assessments can I confirm if my accountant did claim the foreign withholding dividend tax credit for U.S. equities I own? That is a mouthful.
Okay. So on the notice of assessment, there are several sections. One that talks about total income, net income, taxable income, and then the very fourth section is the credits that you've claimed. And so on that assessment, it looks just like the tax return that has been prepared. Line by line, it will give you a line number and a description. So she wants to look in about the fourth section of her assessment to see that.
Good to know. Good to know. Also, someone is asking, can I claim for sports activities? So I guess there's probably some specific things you can claim when it comes to sports.
Okay. So you cannot claim your fitness membership,
right,
or your sports activities for yourself. The fitness credit that's on the table right now is available for your dependent children who are 18 or under.
Okay.
And that credit was previously $1,000 per child. For 2016, you claim the expenses up to $500 for each child.
Okay.
So golf classes, hockey, soccer, any of those.
Is that
credits.
like going? Is it also like equipment for the sports too?
So what happens is when you pay the fee for the classes, typically if there's any equipment or anything included, it's included in the receipt. For this year, if the receipt is $1,000, the credit that you're going to be able to claim is only $500. It's set at that maximum per child.
Okay. I have a question for any last-minute tax tips. How can we get organized in time? So I know we've got about a month before the deadline, and I think lots of people are feeling the crunch time. What can they do to get themselves sorted out?
Pull out that shoebox.
Oh my gosh, my husband just did it. It's a disaster.
Pull out the shoebox, put everything in the shoebox. Specifically, now, it's pretty straightforward if you're working for an employer.
Yes.
You get the T4 in the mail, and that's the first trigger that, hey,
Yeah.
it's tax time. Now you have your T4. But again, I want to stress, medical expenses, you have those receipts. If your medical expense only consists of prescriptions, you can go to the pharmacy and they'll give you a statement that shows what you've paid
I didn't know
for
that.
the year.
Oh, that's nice.
A lot of seniors don't think of doing that
No,
either.
I thought you
You're
had
trying
to
to
each
save
individual
the little-
receipt.
If you're going consistently to the same pharmacy, go in and ask them for a statement, and they will print it out for you, and you can bring that in as your receipt.
Okay, that's super handy.
Okay. Things like if you've bought glasses or had dental work, if you don't have the receipt, you can go back to your dentist and ask for that.
Good to
So
know.
it's not a problem if you can't find it. Just go back and ask for it. Things like the charitable donations. Now, I want to stress here with the charitable donations because this is another credit that's on the table for the last time in 2016. You maybe have been making donations to the Red Cross. You're paying that $100 every year faithfully to the Red Cross. You can save up those donation receipts for 5 years and claim them. Because you haven't claimed any donations, you or your spouse, in the last 5 years, now you get the 15% credit, plus you get a first-time super donors credit, which gives you an additional 20% on those charitable donations because you saved them up.
And so this isn't going to be the case for 2017?
It's not going to be for 2017 because that first-time super credit is no longer available for 2017. So if you've been saving them up,
This is
2016 is the year to take advantage of that credit while it's still on the table.
Absolutely. Oh, jeez.
For those who, I'll just like to say that, for those who use H&R Block or are still have questions, walk into any one of our offices. We have an envelope that we'll give you to put all of your items inside.
Oh, that's
and the
handy.
back of the envelope tells you all of the receipts and all of the credits that you can claim and what documentation you need.
Oh, that's helpful. There you go. There you go. Okay, the next question I have is, I find a very common one that people get confused about. I got married this past year. Do my husband and I need to file together? Is there a reason we should file together? I feel like so many people are confused by this.
Very common question, and I'm going to answer that in a very simple way. Every individual in Canada is responsible for filing their own tax return.
Exactly. The most important thing to know,
You're
and I think
over
a lot of
18,
people don't realize this.
You are a resident in Canada, you are responsible for filing your own tax return. The reason we ask couples, whether married or common law, to come in and file together, your income is reported individually, but based on your income, there are certain credits available
that
to you that you can transfer from one spouse to the other. And those credits are based on the income you're reporting. So when you come in and sit down together, we get an accurate picture of the income. We can transfer the credits, and you both walk out knowing exactly the tax refund or the balance owing to Revenue Canada.
Perfect. Perfect, perfect. And for anyone watching, we are going to be live for another 10 minutes. So if you have a tax question and you don't know whether you should ask it or not, this is the time to ask it. So ask away. But moving along, I have another question for you. I sold my house recently, and I understand I have to report it. Does this mean I am going to have to pay tax on it?
Okay, this is a very fantastic question. Thank you for asking. So for the first time in 2016, if you owned your own home, and this is the home that you live in with your family, it's your principal residence. If you sold it in 2016, you are required to report it on your income tax return. You are going to report the year that you bought the home, the cost of the home, and the proceeds that you sold the home for in 2016. If it is your principal residence, reporting it allows you to qualifies you for the capital gains exemption. So by reporting it, you are not going to have to pay tax. Failing to report it means you could be subject to paying tax on 50% of the profit of the sale.
That could be a big
and that
amount.
could be a hefty tax bill for not reporting one item.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you sold it only in 2016 and it was your principal residence, you're going to report the details on your tax return with no tax consequence.
Okay, we have another question live. Would getting a new higher paying job a month before the new year affect the amount you owe in state taxes? As a full-time employee as well as a part-time student, I will be getting money back from the feds. Do I owe my state a large sum?
Okay, let's go back
let's go back there a
couple
little
of
bit.
Questions there.
There's a couple of questions in there.
So you got a higher paying job a month before the year ended.
Yes, so like in December.
In December. So based on the earnings of that job, the employer would have been deducting tax. So there should be no significant increase in your tax bill as long as the employer has deducted the tax according to what they were paying you. That's the first part. You shouldn't have any huge surprise in a tax bill. The second part is if you were a student in part of the year, you have tuition that you paid. So you have credits that you can use to reduce the tax payable on that high income job. So overall, with this situation, you have tuition credits, you only worked for 1 month at the end of the year, I would say you are in a win-win situation.
Perfect. All right, so we're nearing the end, but I've got a few more questions to take us there. Okay, I've been traveling outside of Canada for the past year and have worked some odd jobs in different countries I visited but didn't work in Canada. How would I report my income on my Canadian tax return? And I feel like that's common for lots of people who like finish university, maybe teach English somewhere, and they're confused about what they do with their taxes.
This is a very good question. We talk about a global economy.
Yeah.
So you are resident in Canada. Because you are resident in Canada, you're going to file a Canadian tax return. With all of these other countries, you're going to report employment income on line 104 because it's not reported on a T4. All of these other countries will have different slips that they gave you, or you may have earned cash, so you keep a track of that. In Canada, there are over 100 countries that we have tax treaties with. So the key thing here that I would say to this individual is contact Revenue Canada. Find out if the specific country you worked in has a tax treaty. You're still going to report the income on your tax return. If there is an existing treaty, you're going to claim an exemption for that income. So you report it as total income, but it is not included in your taxable income.
Okay.
And if that country, we do have a treaty and they deducted tax, the third thing for that individual is they would be entitled to a foreign tax credit.
Okay.
But they would definitely be advised to either speak to a professional or contact Revenue Canada directly.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, and we got to thank you for your question about the higher paying job. You are welcome.
You're very welcome.
Okay, I want to ask a fun question because we have 5 minutes to go, and we definitely need to talk about this one. I work as an escort or prostitute or drug dealer, one of those types of jobs. How should I file my taxes?
You file your income tax and report your cash income on line 104. Here's what you don't know. You have income. So for yourself, you're considered a self-employed individual. You have income. You're also going to have expenses that you've earned to generate that income. And by filing your tax return every year, if you continue to be in this profession when you retire, you're now able to contribute to your Canada pension plan, to your unemployment insurance, and be able to retire at 65 with a government pension. So file your income tax return.
You still have to file your taxes.
Still file your income taxes. And that individual, by filing, is also entitled to receive other benefits, like their GST credits.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I have one kind of, it's not a specific question, but it's, what crazy things have you heard that people blow their tax returns on? Have you, when people kind of maybe come into you and chat about oh, I can't wait to get my tax refund, this is what I, hope to do with it. What are some of the things that people tell you?
I think one of the most common things is we hear that they're going to use their tax return for their vacation.
Yeah.
One of the craziest things I have was a specific client who was coming in to do her taxes because she had veterinary bills for her cat. This was a cat that she was quite positive her accountant had been claiming as a dependent, wanted to claim the medical expenses, but she's doing her taxes at that specific time because she has a vet bill that she needs to pay. And she was very serious and very concerned. That's about the most crazy one.
That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. Well, we're going to wrap up here, but the good news is I will also be soon recording a podcast episode with Lisa, so if we haven't gotten your question, if you want to email me your question or leave it again in the comments, we will try our best to acknowledge it and answer it in our podcast episode. But a big thank you for everyone who has joined us and asked questions live. Really appreciate it. We hope that you've learned a little bit more about taxes and feel a little less stressed and okay about it. Promise, taxes aren't scary. They can actually be fun. Knowledge is power.
That is exactly
right?
it.
And would you have any suggestions for, if people want to learn a little bit more, educate themselves a bit more, where on the internet should they go? I definitely suggest the CRA's website.
I suggest that as well. There's a lot of information out there. There really is, but a lot of it is mixed and muddled. And so if you have a specific question, my recommendation is go straight to the Canada Revenue website or pick up the phone and call them. Canada Revenue is excellent with communicating with the taxpayers. It's not scary, and you don't have to give them all of your personal information. You can ask them a direct question. Failing that, walk into any one of H&R Block's offices across the country and ask a question. We are here to help you.
Absolutely. Great. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for joining me, and thank you for watching. And until next live stream, have a fabulous Wednesday. Thank you for watching my video of the Facebook live stream I did in partnership with H&R Block. I hope you got a lot out of it. And of course, if you have any other questions when it comes to doing your taxes, feel free to shoot me an email, or it's always free to go to an H&R Block location and ask one of their tax professionals anything. So thank you again for joining me, and I hope you join me for the next one.